Hello and thank you for joining us for the KHSAA Grand Finals. I am Stanley Greyheart Barker and delighted to be joined, as always, by Alex Nymera Hapgood.
Pleasure's mine, here once again on the PlayVS channel. Last time we were over in a course over in Michigan's high school finals. Now we're back tonight with Kentucky's kind of same analog towards that. And it's looking like we've got two pretty interesting teams here, Stan. As much as that word is one we throw around a lot, we do have some interesting road to the finals here to go through.
We really do. This was a 16-team tournament in terms of the brackets that we've been able to see. And coming through it on the top side, Henry Clay Blue coming in as the 8th seed. They have gone through everyone in their path, including the number 1 seed, STX Tigers. And they have found themselves going up now against Generals Varsity. Those two teams, the General Varsity in the semi-finals, they beat the Bluebirds. Quarterfinals, they took out the Soapy Joes. In their early round match, they took down Eagles Talons. Henry Clay Blue have done this the hard way, taking down Thomas Nelson Gaming, STX Tigers, as I mentioned, and Purple Rain in the early days to find this final stage, 2nd versus 8th in terms of the seedings. But these are the two teams coming into this best of 5 without a doubt.
Yeah, so, again, we kind of have to rehash some of our narratives in the way that we approach this as the last stream we had, because, again, we're kind of coming to this quite fresh from the casting desk, right? We don't necessarily know these players by names. However, after what we saw the last time, with some exemplary performances, with some of the cleanest wombo combos I've ever actually had a chance to cast, I'm hoping for more of the same tonight. I'm hoping to walk away from this broadcast knowing more about the players, knowing more about the teams, and having those names to take forward with me and remember back and go, God damn, do you remember that play?
Yeah, well, what's certainly the play I remember from coming out from Saturday's broadcast, and well worth checking out on our past broadcasts here on PlayVS 2. We had this perfect it was like 3 ults that all hit 5 men
yes,
each. It was stacked so delightfully. We'll see if we get anything of the like today. Certainly coming into this one, the expectations are high for such a great final. We got a best of 3 in the end on Saturday. We get to go the whole best of 5 tonight. That might mean up to 5 games. And you know what? I'm just super excited to get onto the Rift and see what these two teams have to offer.
Sure, because at the end of the day, there's nothing I enjoy more than seeing good League of Legends, seeing exciting League of Legends. They're not always the same thing. Sometimes you have to make a mistake to make it even more exciting. Much like those wombo combos we were talking about it, right? I mean, we saw that, you know, particularly like JG1 playing on the Kai'Sa and the Ashe from the Victorious team last time had such a great performance. And again, I now walk away with that name in my mind and say, yes, I remember them. But I also remember, you know, the 5-man Cannon ult, into the 5-man Galio ult, into the 5-man Misfortune ult, which just shredded everyone. And after game 1, after game 2, I'm hoping we have a couple of those moments to start talking about as we keep going on through this. And we will be working our way towards the first champ select, hopefully rather soon.
Yeah, we'll bring you into that pick and ban just as quickly as we can, see what sort of champions these two teams are going to be focusing down on. As you say, we're coming in slightly fresh to these players, but you've had the opportunity to have a little look through some of their stats. Alex, anything in particular that your eyes will cast upon?
So looking through some basic OPGG stuff, we've got relatively even ranks kind of going between kind of like gold and silver between the two teams. And then you've got a couple of standout players, 1 or 2 on each team. I'm looking at Eli from the side of Henry Clay Blue coming in as a D4 player. They play a lot of mid lane. I think they're going down towards AD carry today, though. That's the list that we've been given. And on the other side, we've got a jungler who's up towards platinum as well. So those are the 2 players which may be looking to make some more individual plays. But actually, the last time we hear again, just working off the precedent we've been set, the cohesion factor was something that really came in strong on the team, which didn't necessarily have the star players last time. So I'm looking at this and saying, all right, okay, well, you might have your individual performances. Let's see how you do it as a unit, though. So
we have our expectations. It's given us plenty of things to look back on maybe after the first game or 2. As we do come towards pick and ban phase, is there anything that you feel needs to be super highly prioritized, whether that be because of its importance in the current meta here on pre-season, or just generally because of these summoners?
So I'm not entirely sure about what's going to be prioritized with nameplates on. Of course, there are some meta picks which are difficult to kind of disregard in the Champions Select either way. We've talked a lot about Jinx when we've been casting recently. There's some stuff about Viego very strong, and both those are reset champions. But looking at the last patch notes too, Kai'Sa has been very popular for a number of years, basically since her release. A very fun champion to play in the AD carry role with a lot of agency when AD carries can struggle to have that, and she got a significant buff in this last patch. Lots of buffs to her Q, to her AP build and stuff like that too. So you end up cracking that W evolve and cracking all the evolves with something like a Rageblade or a Nashus chucked in, that you can become an absolute nuclear warhead hanging towards the backline. As you dive in, you get those W resets going too if you're sitting back and poking, and I think Kai'Sa's a champion to look out for.
ARAM Kai'Sa, always putting down the poke, getting the reset, and
I play a lot of that mode, and it's not looking good with the extra, because what they've done is effectively said you crack that W upgrade and you get even more refund on the cooldown when you hit it on a champion. I don't need more of them flying in my face. I'm already losing a third of my health every time one connects.
I don't know about you, but playing ARAM, because I obviously am perfect at dodging when it comes to ARAM. I know how annoyed I am.
I perfectly dodge you in Champions Select 2, Stan.
Wow, incredible. I know how annoyed I get when I see that hit, especially one of my teammates, and go, oh great, they've got a reset, so another bit of plasma's going to be flying at my face sometime soon. Now we're going to have to see a bit more of that potentially on the Rift if that champion gets locked in. We'll keep our eyes peeled for that one coming towards our first champion select, which we're getting into very, very quickly. Let's see exactly what Kentucky's got to offer us, because coming into this one, as we've said, slight unknowns, but looking at the way the brackets progressed, you look at the seedings, you look at some of the teams that came through. STX Tigers were favoured coming through the top half of the bracket. Well, Henry Clay Blue, they took them out in the quarterfinals before also taking out the 4th seed, themselves having been the 8th seed. They've come out swinging, and they're looking pretty good coming into this final.
Well, because they came in as the 8th seed, they've literally only faced one team that was below them in the initial seedings. That was their first round, and that was one below them. It's 8th versus 9th, so that's not even an easy run from the kind of the numerical on-paper odds of it, too.
And that was up against the Jimi Hendrix team, wasn't it?
Purple Rain, absolutely.
I want to say it was Jimi Hendrix, was it?
He did Purple Haze.
He did Purple Haze. Prince did Purple Rain. Am I right?
And I was about to say,
I'm letting myself down with my music knowledge here.
Yes, maybe he pulled out some Voodoo Child magic to change up some letters in that one. I was a big fan of Hendrix.
Yes.
My grandma used to go to watch a lot of music, and she talked about how she went to go see Jimi Hendrix back in the day, and I was like, that's something which I would really love to go and see, but maybe I'll get to see one of those legendary performers myself when the time comes again to go start seeing large tier events.
It's one of those things that we all hope is going to happen sooner rather than later. But of course, at the moment we say to ourselves, with being able to do these fun home broadcasts, to see great finals. And for you and I, we're both UK based. For us, if you were to peek outside my curtains, it's all dark outside. Over stateside, obviously things are a little bit lighter, a little bit brighter, and they're bringing you this best of 5 finals. And for us, it may end in the early hours of the morning. For them, the early hours of the evening.
Gamer hours, you mean?
It's exactly that. Let's see which of these two teams of gamers comes off better in Champ Select. They've each got a coach on their side who I assume will be able to help them through this pick and ban phase. That phase just starting up right now, Nymera.
Okay, so this is where we see how far the scouting's gone, how far these teams have managed to research their opponents. We're not seeing any snap bans. Often what we will see is like blue side first ban immediately in there because they've come in with a draft ban, but this one's taking down a little bit, and it's going to be Mordekaiser away. Mordekaiser is one of those champions where you kind of forget they exist until you start trying to play against one with all of the single target Q buffs, and you realize he bonks you for like 600 damage, and you're sat there going, what? How did this champion get so strong since the last time I played against him?
Well, one champion that bumps you for a lot of damage goes away, as does another on red side. Graves taken out of the potential jungle top and mid picks.
So Graves is one of those champions which has again kind of been a stalwart, and whenever any champion has not just top tier strength in one role, but has the ability to flex to another, it becomes a bit untenable at that point, particularly with the Graves being able to go into top lane or mid lane, depending on what champion pools you play there too. Particularly Graves into anything which struggles pushing in waves early, just gives you a free area of the map to play around early. So going to see the Vayne and the Ezreal taken away too, so AD carry prioritization gone down.
Interesting to see, not taking that KHSAA away that we talked about earlier on, so still something we might get to see coming out through the first picks. However, this instant reactionary ban where one exceptional carry gets taken away, something that's already coming in for nerfs. In fact, I think may have had some very slight nerfs just the other day in the patch with the Vayne. That's also, that's being paired away with a ban from red side coming out of generals saying, yep, we can take the Ezreal away. Then it starts turning tension a little bit more towards the jungle or even towards the top side with Warwick and Lilia bans.
So I can kind of understand the interplay between some of these bans, and a lot of it will still just be they know what champions the other team plays. Particularly at this level, you're looking to target comfort, not necessarily meta power. But when you look towards something like the Vayne and the Ezreals, we do see the first base coming in. We'll stop in on them in just a second. Is that the problem is that when you are playing with the Vayne, you're looking to play into champions that can just kind of run people down, right? So you can kind of see the one as the response to the other. And what we do see now is a lot more elongated fight potential from all three of these first picks.
So one slight update coming in from a terrific production, and that is we're finding out this is actually going to be a best of 3 grand finals. So while you might be out there disappointed you're not going to get a couple extra games, it does mean that action is going to come come thick and fast. It means game 1 is even more important because it puts one team at 2 match points. And in that first game, we're starting to see that priority. What's going to get picked up early? You're just starting to say there the Victor early picked, the Seraphine Nami in response, and now it looks like we're seeing the Caitlyn locked in as well.
And I'm expecting this Seraphine to go towards the bot lane because Metramina, who's been listed in the bot lane position for Generals Varsity, does have that on record quite a lot. Picking something like a Caitlyn, though, knowing that that's likely going towards bot lane, this is going to be the kind of lane where both your junglers just want to just zero in on bot lane. Just go, if you're on red side, red Raptors Grump, level 3 gank bot, or even just go red side, level 2, blue side, red into bot gank, level 2 gank. Just immediately upset that because both of these lanes with the Caitlyn Yuumi, Seraphine Nami just want to be shoving the wave relentless, make sure the enemy lane has very poor resets and start rolling that into item advantages early into the game.
You started touching there on the junglers and it immediately made me think, where are we going to start seeing the AD coming out of the Generals composition? The Akshan gets locked in. It does provide flex potential.
It does, and the thing about Akshan is that you lock this in and you realize that you have to lock in something like a Jax to beat him in a 1v1. That is, from what I've heard from all the pro players, there's a UK-based player who got to EU West Grandmaster, I believe, playing basically just Akshan. It's just like, okay, the only champion you lose to is Jax in a straight 1v1. Yes, there are compositions you can struggle into much in the same way that Cassidy can too. We think you don't pick for the lane, you pick for the composition in some ways. But unless you've got a very confident player playing into this matchup, you are going to struggle in a 1v1 early lane sense against this brutal laning champion.
Well, Jax is not going to get banned away, certainly not by the Generals Varsity team. They instead opt into banning away Shen, my favourite champion, and Shyvana, the champion I most recently played in the jungle with that AP build. Over on the other side, you talked about Viego, its potential resets. That gets banned away, as does the Garen.
Okay, so Garen just trying to ban away. Okay, so I would have thought that the Garen would maybe be on the Yuumi's team. So at some point, because the thing with Yuumi is that you know you're going to hop off your AD carry at some point and just go join a Bruiser or your jungler or something. Someone like Talon was very famous for that in Worlds, where SKT or T1 rather would just eventually just separate the bot lane duo to have the AD carry safely farm, and then just have the jungler do all their own stunts with an extra pet in tow. On the other side, it's going to be the Kayn, very fast early clearing, just shreds through all those multi-target camps, and that's going to set up Generals Varsity for a bit more presence on the map if it doesn't come to blows early around that bot lane.
Alex, seeing these locked in, it leaves me with two thoughts, which is at least one thought more than I normally have. We were wondering where the AD was going to come from. Well, we've started to see it now with the Akshan and the Kayn. The other thing that I notice is that the two champions in this last season or so, I've hated playing against the most in the jungle, both present on this pick and ban. The Viego banned away, the Kayn, that one actually getting picked up. These champions...
Someone's not played against enough Talon.
Well, the thing is, these are champions that I hate so much and hate playing against, with my own personal play style, that I've stopped banning Pyke in every game. Pyke, a champion I hate, I abhor with every particle of my body, and you know, these are champions that I've been banning away instead, partly because Pyke's kind of fallen off quite a lot, but also partly because of what these two champions do. Kayn can bring so much through either form, though. I'm pretty sure I know what we're going to be seeing here. Gonna round things out, we see the Malphite, the Jhin taken by HCB, and it is going to be the Gangplank completing things for Generals Varsity.
So there's a bit of a gambit been thrown by Generals Varsity, at least in my eyes here, where you have two lanes on opposite sides of the map, which you both really want to just kind of upset at once. Because Gangplank, if you start dying early, that becomes a real pressure leak for Generals Varsity, because then you have the Malphite and the Jhin Zhao being able to dive over and over and over. And yes, Gangplank is good playing on weak side, but if you die early enough and you get playing into a Malphite who's W maxing with a Bramble Vest, with Tabby, with the Jhin Zhao coming up to help them on demand too, that's going to be very hard to play against. But if you put too much resources up there, and actually you lose the bot lane, and you have this Seraphine Nami just making your Caitlyn Yuumi so difficult to play around too, maybe that balances out. So I'm looking to see, where is the theater of action going to be? Is it going to be around this very volatile bot lane, or this ticking time bomb in the top side?
Where will the theatre of action be? Where will the theatre of Akshan be as well? Will we see this going into the mid lane, as I think we're both expecting to see at this point? Or will it get flexed down onto the bot side, leaving Seraphine in mid? One of the things about having these two players you spoke about of their exceptional elos is the fact that you can swap them between being your ADC or your mid laner, depending on lane matchups, depending on what you think is going to be most suitable for your team. I wouldn't be at all shocked to see that sort of swap coming in throughout this match.
So I would expect the action to be mid into the Victor.
Sure.
I would do, but it is absolutely right to point out the flex potential. As we're seeing it right now, of course, it is just on that pro draft, so we'll have to see what happens when we're actually loading into that game. But particularly someone like Victor, who is kind of, ever since the changes to Hex Core and stuff, or actually no, it's a little bit hard to judge it in that sense, but Victor is normally one of those champions that is okay with getting action in early, where you want to... it's in my brain, I'm sorry, I just cannot stop using that word. But you want to be involved in kills and assists early because it does help your passive nowadays. It helps you get those upgrades, whereas before you actually maybe wanted to farm a bit more and get your wave clear and then start impacting a big team fight. Now you've kind of got the option to do both. Action just has this ability to just strong arm you in any laning trade. Even if you walk in there with a Xin Zhao, there's a good chance that he just swings around, gets an awkward kill because these ease of access to proccing press the attack by bringing stuff like Electrocute and having this absurd amount of burst damage. I'm expecting the mid lane action just acting on his own to be the point of pressure.
No, Mero, we've possibly got a few people out there on Twitch who haven't seen as much of Victor since the pre-season changes came in, the changes which you were describing there. So essentially, correct me if I'm wrong, the Hex Core item completely taken out of the game. You no longer upgrade that to upgrade your abilities. Now it's a case of, I think you need to get 100 points to get the upgrade, and for each upgrade...
1 point per minion, 5 for cannons, and then you get 25 for kill and assist.
Yeah,
yes.
Exactly.
So this came in last season pre-season, so it's actually been there for the full season. And this is the thing, right, because Victor kind of took a bit of a backseat for most of this last season, came back towards Worlds. But those of you who were watching maybe in Season 8 when we saw a lot of top lane Victor, maybe even before that, Season 5, 6, when we saw it a lot in terms of just high burst mid laners, it's been a little bit of a change. Victor is still a very strong champion right now, and the big thing right now is you can build something like Crown of the Shadowed Queen if you feel like it's not going to get proc too easily. I'm not sure that's going to be the case this game because you have Seraphine throwing so many projectiles that you might not have that much value. But Victor is a very strong position with itemization as well, but we'll talk more about that when we're on the Rift.
Wow, it really doesn't feel like that long since that change came through.
I know.
But it just goes
Makes
to
me
show
feel old.
There's a reason for that. But yes, it'll be fun to see how this matchup goes. Don't look at me like that, you absolute boomer. So
you are older than me.
I don't know what you're talking about. Look at this youthful face. Yeah, I'm very much interested to see how the mid lane pans out. We also started talking about the jungle, about where the priorities are going to be for this Xin Zhao. Will we see the continual dives towards Gangplank? There's only so much you can do with eating those oranges to keep yourself K. But if you do that, yeah, you open things up around the rest of the map. I do still think that we're going to see a lot of pressure put down onto the Gangplank. I've seen Malphite and Jhin just abuse this matchup so many times in the past. Leads me to wonder exactly what the Kayn response will be to it.
So I think, again, we have the ticking time bomb of the GP. We kind of talked about that, saying, okay, if you just allow Malphite to just get beat down in laning phase, and Kayn's actually going top and making sure he's forced off the wave, then actually Gangplank gets to have a really cushy time of getting towards 1-2 items, and then becomes a real threat at that point. Kayn is sort of a similar issue in the jungle, though, where if you don't actually affect these lanes, start getting control over a quadrant of the jungle, meaning that Kayn can just hyper-clear everything. Kayn has one of the better clears in the game, being having very strong single target and area of effect abilities right from the start of the game. Kayn gets up to his evolution, maybe gets that at 10 minutes instead of the more average, like 14, then suddenly you have a big problem coming from the jungle as well, where Kayn can start leading the skirmishes, and even someone like Xin Zhao, who is notoriously strong in a 1v1 scenario, can struggle against something like a Rust. I'm trying to think what kind of... I think you do need to go Rust in this game.
I was expecting
just because you're against a Malphite, you're against a Xin Zhao, you are the only form of the front line there. And particularly when you have double enchants to back you up and keep that regen active for longer because you're alive for longer because of the heals and shields. I'm expecting Rust to be the more valuable pick here, but then again, 1000 AD one-shots are really satisfying to see.
They are, but you mentioned the Bramble Vest that we're probably going to be seeing coming in from the Malphite pretty early on up against the Gangplank. It's going to be so impactful against so many of the champions and with so much potential healing doing. I expect to see so many of the champions. You talk about a Malzahar tax. Now I think we're going to have to pay some kind of healing tax to see whether it be the Putrefier or the Bramble Vest, the Executioners, whatever it happens to be, that just negates some of this mass healing that the side of Generals is going to have.
That's always going to be a factor. The question is, where do you slot it into your build? Who's going to be applying it most effectively? It probably will be something like a Bramble Vest coming out of the Malphite. I'm not sure if it'll go straight into an early Frozen Heart, early Thornmail, because Malphite only gets to immobilize on the ultimate to get the 60% group experience reduction there. I'm actually just going to pivot off this because I'd love to stay this a bit longer, but the last thing is that I actually wonder if there's an outside chance we have the Malphite going mid and we have a first strike Victor top going into the Gangplank just to really annoy him in laning phase. There's just a chance. Just want to throw it on the table. If it happens, I'll look pretty intelligent. If not, I mean, I'm not used to looking intelligent anyway. Some might say that's antithetical to the job
No,
thing, but I
not
digress.
around me or not, to be fair. You know, it's...
You have a way of bringing things down a notch, yeah. But we might see the Victor top just to make that top lane laning phase a bit more even.
For those of you who wondered, myself and Nymera do actually like each other. Well, he likes me, and I pretend I like him.
Yes,
so
it's a business relationship. You know, give or take, really.
But coming back to something, because I always like to hear your thoughts on this one coming into the game. I don't even have to ask you to turn nameplates off because number one, they're not on. We can't see them during Champ Select, and number two, we've not really seen these players playing before, other than getting to see a little bit of their OPGGs. Just based on these drafts that we're seeing coming into this game, who are you favouring? We've got Henry Clay Blue. They are arguably the underdogs coming in as 8th seed on blue side, and we've got Generals Varsity over on red, our number 2 seeds in this tournament.
Okay, so I'm going to give this an answer in 2 parts because I don't want to halfway house it, but I also want to give some extra depth to it too. The first part is, who has agency? Who's the person you're looking at and say, right, you're the person that's going to carry this game? I think in the early game, you're looking at Xin Zhao and you're looking at Akshan. So that's one on each team. That's very easy to say. So looking at mid lane for Generals Varsity and looking at the jungle for Henry Clay Blue. When it gets towards late game, things get a lot more open. But if it's going to be a survival of the early game for top and bot lane, I am going to go towards Generals Varsity. I think that if things aren't rolling early, those are some dangerous scaling top and bot lanes you got to worry about.
Yeah, okay. That is an exceptionally fair point. Normally this is the point where I like to disagree with you, and I'm going to, because what I've seen over the last couple of weeks is the ease of execution in competitions like this really playing up. You have just a solid go button in the Rock just coming through and absolutely laying the smack down over onto Generals Varsity. You've got the potential follow-up that can come in with this one. You've got Yumi, who can do so much and really apply this heal onto multiple champions, darting to and fro in the fight. Victor that can do so much damage now, so I really do like what I'm seeing coming from Henry Clay Blue. I do not disagree with you for a change that if we get to a late game and we see that generals have been allowed to scale, it's going to be so hard to keep up with that. But I just like more what I see from Henry Clay Blue in the early, and I think that, as you yourself quite rightly said, so many eyes have got to be on Xin Zhao and what they do in the early game.
And then the other side of this, though, is that, okay, so there is the ease of execution of Malphite go in, Rock go brr, and that's very difficult, right? But actually, if you're stood there as the Victor or the Caitlyn, imagine trying to do that into a Seraphine ult, flying through your front line, flying through everything, and then also doing that through the Gangplank ult too.
Alrighty, well, right there, Jungkook has made a fan of me, the secret agent Xin Zhao skin. That's right. For those of you who don't know, I had the joy of cosplaying that at the World's Finals one year, and you're always going to get my love if you do that. But over on the other side, you're always going to get my love if you go for some early invading. 4 men strong.
Okay, well, let's see what they can do at level 1. Malphite doesn't really have many ways to outplay. It does have a lot of HP, though.
Sir Piggle's in danger here. May well have to flash, go straight over the wall. That's going to be a summoner for nothing.
It's a summoner for nothing, but you don't give any stacks over to Kayn either. Could have got an auto into a Q, just get some of those orbs stacking up. Either way, flash away from that top lane. Already talked about, okay, you probably want to see, as Henry Clay Blue fans, to see this Gangplank being pressured, not being able to farm so effectively, being killed maybe a couple of times in the early game, to make sure that matchup doesn't get out of hand. Flash away from Malphite does not help you towards that end.
Okay, we are going to see a red side start from both of these junglers. It would appear Sir Piggle's popping a little bit of vision, potentially unaware of the fact that vision has been left behind coming in from the GVAR team.
So, we saw a couple of level 1s the last time we were into, but for me, I love seeing level 1s. I think that, particularly if you can go back and watch some VODs of the enemy team and say, where do they stand at 1 minute? Where do they stand at 1 minute 15? What can we do to abuse this if there's a pattern which comes through now? So they find themselves a flash for free. Yes, it does get traded for... Actually, no, I was about to say it gets traded for a ward on their own blue buff and realize actually that's their own team. So it's a win for nothing. Again, it's a very freebie one there, and now we're gonna go see potentially Kayn going back towards that full clear. Could go Red Raptor Gronk, but again has such a strong full clear early.
We talked about how much pressure we could see being put onto Locket's Gangplank. However, now the question has to be how much pressure can be put onto Sir Piggles' Malphite, who is going to be flashless, isn't going to have that gap closer that you get at level 6. So all of a sudden, will life become a little bit more tricky for the Mountain up in top lane?
Potentially, because again, you don't have that same ability to play close to the razor's edge and say, all right, I'm going to go take these close trades. I'm going to go try and trade, particularly with the Comet and the Corrupting Pot. You can trade hard early. Well, maybe you can't do that as well nowadays.
Well, let's take this brief moment before we get into the fights that will eminently lead to first blood. To introduce our two teams, Henry Clay Blue on blue side. They're going to have Serpiggles 13 up on top side. Jungkook, the jungler, Juice in mid lane, Eli and Iozinia are going to be your bot lane duo.
Oh, well done on the pronunciation of that one. I was umming and ahhing a little bit about the Yumi's name, but on the other side, of course, a little bit easier for me. We've got Generals Varsity, so that's Locket, Killer Quarry, Anime Eagle, one of my favorites, Metro Mina, and Apathetic Peep. What do you mean? I am very, like, shameless about my love of Japanese pop culture.
Completely and utterly. This is the person with an Ari shrine sitting next to them.
Pay your respects.
Absolutely no shock from me whatsoever. Xin Zhao having cleared out their top side, now looking for potential first gank. Going to sweep things out, going to get spotted by this ward and try.
Okay, so this is Red Raptor's Gromp into blue, so it's not the fastest. So it is the fastest level 3, but then it's also the extra buff on top of it. It's not the earliest timing to get towards top lane, but with that ward's scouting out Jungkook, it's not going to be GP forced off the wave. It's going to crash into tower, and GP's just going to collect all that farm.
Meanwhile, the two junglers, they're going to settle for a Scuttle Crab apiece before we see a potential first gank coming in. Jungkook avoiding that ward, and all of a sudden Anime Eagle could be in a little bit of trouble. Gets tagged by the Death Ray and swings their way out to safety before Jungkook can arrive.
But they have lost a fair amount of HP, and Victor has now got this wave just sitting prettily outside his turret. It's not like he's at threat of being ran down by Action's extended trades, getting the extra move speed to catch up as well. But this could be a dangerous trade in top lane now, thinking about it.
It's dangerous for both of these top laners. Locket playing very, very close with this. Health bar has to be aware of the seismic shards coming their way. Serpiggles burning the last of those corrupting pots to keep themselves healthy. Anime Eagle looking for that early pickup, however. Remember, Serpiggles is flashless.
Is okay, so what are we going to see? Are we going to see the Ian first? Yes, it is.
Yeah, straight in, getting aggressive, finding the tags, finding first blood all day long. Anime Eagle picking that one up.
Oh, bad goes to worse. I feel like I've said that a lot in broadcasts recently, but it just describes this too well. And also, it's not even going to be a punish in the mid lane. We don't have the Victor pushing in hard enough, whereas in the top side, it's a teleport forced out in return. I don't know whether Action wants to teleport back into this mid lane. It is a large wave to lose for his own individual power.
Jungkook looks to go aggressive, doesn't find the tag with the spear. However, I think they got spotted out by that ward as they faked out that recall. And it's going to be a nice, easy escape coming out of the General's Varsity bot lane. Things looking pretty good for them across the map so far.
It is, and just checking in on the state of that mid lane wave too, it wasn't going to be a teleport back in from Action. We're going to go see what Action did earlier too, but that means a lot more gold to Kane when we come back to live. As we see here, just gets a lot of mobility with that the E swinging into the fray. Press the attack is a very, very easy keystone to proc for Action with his double hit passive.
And that's exactly what happened. That meant the death of Serpiggles, and it all comes back to that level 1 4-man invade.
But it does that's the extended benefit of the level 1 that they had. Level 1s, again, at this level, at most levels actually, I think should be used to a higher degree. It just gives you, sometimes, every so often in these important games, this is a finals, remember, those wins which sometimes come a lot harder if you leave them a bit later into the game.
Okay, so now things having slowed down a little bit, we can see Jungkook continuing to try and clear things out and spot out some vision that had only just been placed into their own jungle. They've got themselves a quite significant CS disadvantage in comparison to Killer Kawari at the moment.
And that's because that huge wave came in mid lane towards that Kane. And look, E here, it's a first strike. It's not going to be a Conqueror. It's not going to be anything of the sort. And it's going to be Assassin Kane coming in sooner or later. Have a Dirk in inventory already and a Tear stacking up a big burst from Killer Quarry the later we get into the game.
Jungkook jumps over the wall, does get spotted out by the control ward. Locket just seconds away from the potential disaster there. Because level 6 is available on Serpiggles.
It is, and also this wave is not in a great spot to recoup any of that XP either way, but now we've got the Action continuing to just harass the enemy team, trying to get into the fray, but not really wanting to take a full trade against the Victor just then.
Meanwhile,
the Jin.
Killer Quarry just continues to CS up, finding as many of these camps as possible. No one turned their attention towards the main neutral objectives as of yet. Of course, we have got a Cloud Dragon available for either of these two teams, and it looks like Kane's actually just going to dot over the wall, looking for a potential pick onto the bot lane duo, but Jungkook is here to try and respond to this one.
Yeah, I mean, we saw a slight look in from the Xin Zhao looking towards bot lane, but nothing's really been found so far. Oh, he's been caught in rotation.
Oh, this is very, very unfortunate for Deuce. They're going to burn the flash. It's going to be enough to keep them intact. Anime Eagle trying to find damage, throws down the ultimate. No minions to block it, and just like that, second kill of the game going over towards our Akshan.
So that's the execute damage his ultimate has. Might have had to talk about that if we had a bit more downtime. No, not satisfied with that one. Anime Eagle takes a name, takes another kill too, and while it wasn't in an individual 1v1, the ability to join skirmishes with the ability to cross walls as the Kane, with the ability to travel in camouflage and invisibility and swing into things as the Akshan comes out really strong there.
Jungkook looking to try and do something here, doesn't manage to get any kind of steal through that fishing, still only at level 5, so not really able to impact any fights, and this is sort of ships passing in the light, and it leads to the 2v1 matchup.
Yeah, so you can see the power of invisibility in these isolated skirmishes, but I mean, Deuce isn't exactly in the quote-unquote wrong spot. I don't think it's necessarily the worst idea. You're hanging towards the side of the jungle which your jungler's on, right? You're trying to go towards presence in numbers, but when you're someone like a Victor that fights by kind of turning around hilarious amounts of damage, it's a little difficult to turn up to these fights, and well...
Sir Pickles has been making Locket's life tough. However, things are about to get a lot tougher for Sir Pickles, who gets slowed down. The Umbral Trespass straight into the body of the Man Mountain, who tries to ultimate out to safety, keeping their flash intact, but their body does not remain so.
So that was the difficulty of that play, knowing that there was, of course, the Umbral Trespass to follow the Unstoppable Force, and actually ends up doing that without having to blow anything from Kane outside of that. Of course, Kane didn't have a flash to blow to follow. That's a good kill coming in. It's going to add stacks towards add towards the Rust form rather than the Assassin form. Have to see whether this is going to be the case where it actually pops the Rust transformation early, but then has to wait for the eventual transformation of the Assassin to come in.
Anime Eagle, who has just lost their 100% kill participation, looking to try and pick up a couple more kills for their team. Aggression comes in. Seraphine finds the root, the charm, and just like that, the damage rains down. Tidal Wave with the knock of another kill for Anime Eagle. Just like that, Yuumi left without a friend to help them out. They are going to be able to escape away from the bubble, but they lose so much in the bot lane. Things not looking good for Henry Clay Blue.
And this is the first real crack in the armor we've seen from this bot lane 2v2. We knew it could be volatile. It actually didn't end up being so up until this point, but now suddenly you've got a lost wave, lost XP coming in from the Caitlyn. No, they're not at their mythic yet, and before their first mythic and kind of coming into 2 items is really where Caitlyn shines, because you still have that trough in the mid game, which Caitlyn has been famous for throughout the history of League of Legends, whereas you've got these 2 enchants on the other side who probably don't have that to the same degree. Gonna see how it came about. Of course, huge amounts of CC available from both of these enchanters, and the wave is hanging on the other side of the lane, which means that they have to walk up, they get caught out, CC comes in. Luckily for Henry Clay Blue, they don't lose both of their bot lane duo.
The wave was on the other side of the lane, but it was more important the wave that came crashing into them, finding those knockups, and yet again, Anime Eagle, right place, right time. HCB still looking for their first kill. Could this be it here in mid lane?
And they have a Herald if this play works out too. Wave is pushing back towards blue side, but we can see that Akshan is hanging towards the bot side, where he knows he has a bit more vision, because that pink ward behind the back of red buff is giving information that the jungler from the enemy team isn't there. Maybe don't want to walk up to the other side of the lane, though. That's when things get dangerous.
Oh, Jungkook looking for this one, but Eagle just going to escape immediately, not even having to burn. That flash still available to the meanwhile. Kliquari going to be jumping over this wall, looking for potential gank towards bot.
And we'll have to see how that one works out, because honestly, the difference between these 2 teams right now is just having the presence of mind to understand where it's safe to be on the map. Anime Eagle is still safe in the mid lane, doesn't get to stop the Herald being put down, though.
It doesn't stop that one, however. Deuce almost getting tagged by some big damage coming out of the action. A couple of turret plates are going over the way of mid and junk for HCB, but in comparison to the gold they've already lost out of, that's just scratching the surface of evening things back out. We're still looking at 2,000 gold lead for GVAR.
It's not the worst Herald in existence, but it's definitely not the best one either. You're not in position to protect either your side lanes were a play to come in, and it looks like a play is going to come in. There are still summoners on both of these bot laners. They have everything. Question is that going to be enough against a rampaging Kane?
Well, it's going to be a 3v2. It is on the turret. Let's see what Yuumi can do to keep Eli alive. Stun is going to connect. That is going to be the final chapter issue, but with the Umbral Trespass used to great effect, it is yet again going to be a 1-for-0 going over to GVAR, and yet more stacks over to Kilakawari.
Yeah, Generals Varsity have popped into the local library. They found themselves a Book of Eli, and all it says is death to bot laners. Don't come back here. It's going to be another death to the Caitlyn. And this is the problem when you have a Caitlyn and you're not playing towards it. I understand looking towards other areas of the map, looking for easier wins. But if you don't buy your Caitlyn the pressure they need to get advantages in the early game, their mid-game trough is going to be even worse. So now we see actually a pretty okay use of the summoner to try and get out of the initial CC, gets out of the encore, but then of course there's more CC. There's always more CC when you have this, and it's also setting up all of these pins to be knocked down by the Kayn, who's bringing in a lot of damage with this early gold he's received.
Encore HCB did not want more. GVAR say tough luck because we got plenty more, and they just keep throwing this chain CC down. The damage coming in from both the AD champions who roam their way in terms of Killquari and Anime Eagle on the Kayn and the Akshan respectively. It's led us to this position of dominance that GVAR have, and considering that they are the comp that arguably scales the hardest as well, the fact they have this early game lead is absolutely massive for them. Lockett potentially has slightly misplayed on this one, trying to get damage in, flashes away but still gets tagged by the Unstoppable Force. The Cannon Barrage arrives, but it is too late to stop themselves from dying. However, the return kill will be here as Killquari arrives on the scene. Sir Biggles already burning that flash to secure the kill. It might lead to a dragon being secured on the other side of the rift.
And Killquari is rocking a new look as well, coming out with the Shadow Assassin early into the game. Normally see that a little bit later, but they're not on the bot side of the map, not here to stop a dragon. It won't be two early dragons coming in from Generals Varsity, and this will be, after a quick look in, an uncontested objective secured for Henry Clayblue.
Yeah, good pressure from mid and bot, securing this one nicely. It leads to the Chemtech Rift as well.
This is a really fun map. So there are a lot of things to say about the Chemfog and how it has affected how you go about playing about Vision. From my understanding, from what I've played of this map too as well, I play myself a lot of assassins, like Stan was alluding to. I have a shrine to Ahri. That's very much my main champion. But when I play that champion, I do play it like an assassin. You can play amongst this camouflage zones on both sides of the map and get so much value out of these picks, because Vision wards no longer really spot you going for these kills. They no longer those areas of the map no longer give you the ability to kind of get free farm, and, well, I mean, Xin Zhao's just gonna have to go use those little invisibility zones and flash out of the Dragon Pit.
Yeah, John Cooper left without a summoner for a little while, but not going to give over their life on this particular instance. Killquari not able to put enough pressure onto Deuce to force anything here either.
So, what we're going to have to spot in the next couple of minutes now, and actually for the rest of the game, is where are the pink wards going? Where are the vision wards going, your regular sight wards, to try and spot entry into the jungle? The way you have to light up the whole map changes in a very comprehensive way. I'm worried for Deuce at this point because, and actually the Caitlyn too, right? Because we've seen how they can get traded onto very heavily, much like this, and well, trying to do that when you don't have vision either side of your lane, but gets even harder to do. Anime
Eagle still has the ultimate available. Deuce definitely not safe just yet. Neither are Eli and Iozinia. They have got tagged by the charm. Yet again, the wave of CC rains down. So far, Yuumi has been able to survive without giving up their life, but the same might not be true this time. Killquari again with the Umbral Trespass, again securing the kill, dashing away before the final turret shot can take their life. Double kill in bot for the Kayn.
I mean, call the Circus, the juggling was insane. Everyone staying alive, no deaths coming in that play. And Killquari has just run rampant now. And you can see what happens when things go very badly for a pressure lane. And we've I've kind of killed that point to death, but not quite as dead as, of course, Eli has been in this game so far. But it's just meant that you've got this high gold scaling carry in this Kayn as well, getting so many resources beyond the norm for themselves too.
John Coop has just used the full rotation skills, but Anime Eagle is going to be content to disappear off with the recall. Let's have a little look what happened. I think we might get to see the bot lane play here.
So we're going to start off in the mid lane because this kind of goes towards, okay, action. Why is this champion strong? Because you get to do stuff like this. You get to go into melee range so easily. This might actually ended up being the ultimate trade. You see the ultimate up, and I see a pretty low HP bar. Going to walk up, goes in with the E. It's a hefty trade with the E yet again.
Yeah, that is, that's a rather fed action at this point. Has obviously got the mythic completed. We're seeing that early Yumu's coming out of the Kayn, which is interesting to see as Lockett decides to go for this duel against Sir Piggles. Seems to be getting the better of it. The Cannon Barrage will force the ultimate out of Sir Piggles, but the response comes in from Jungkook, who instantly gets tagged by those barrels and has to dash to the relative safety of their turret. I say relative because is anyone really safe when Killquari's on the map, finding their 6th kill of the game? Jungkook trying to turn this one around, but now is in a 3 versus 0 until Victor can come to try and even out the numbers a tad.
Your walls mean nothing to Kilakori. Just gets right into the thick of things yet again. Having that Youmu's is like, okay, that's actually a bit of a strange pickup. It's a very efficient item. It kind of replaced Serpent's Fang as the first go-to lethality item midway through the season. And the ability to run across the map with someone like Kayn as well, to get that move speed from the Assassin Form's E, go through the walls, use that Ghost Blade active too, means you turn up to every play so quickly. GP buys the time, Kayn buys the kills.
And one of the things that we'd actually... oh, dear.
And they buy the Rave in the bot lane!
If you do happen to suffer with epilepsy out there, to maybe avert your eyes if we're panning back to bot lane again. Meanwhile, we're going to see Herald put down in mid. This will almost certainly be securing this turret, maybe even getting the second bump down as well. Mr. Pickles will be able to stop that from happening. Maybe even a potential catch on towards the Kayn, off towards the side, duking this one out, but has so much escape potential, just whispering their way into the night.
Again, look how fast they end up getting. And of course, one of the things when you upgrade on that Shadow Form as well is, as we see a big trade in mid lane.
Yeah, that's a lot of damage. The knockup's going to connect onto Anime Eagle. There is a potential for the shutdown goal, but it's Jungkook who gets shut down instead, and now the damage gets turned on to Deuce. It's going to be the charm connecting. In goes Anime Eagle. They may have stepped a little too far. They take an Unstoppable Force to the face, but they've got healing. They've got the support of their double enchant bot lane. And just like that, a 3-4-0 goes the way of GVAR.
Okay, yeah, I get that. Akshan's meant to be like this suave, like really secret assassin kind of Tomb Raider vibe. But you're not supposed to live that dangerously. I know it's fun, I know it's great for the action flicks and all that, but I thought they were dead to rights going right into the Malphite. But the double enchanters have come online at this point. You've got yourselves maxed out first abilities, you've got yourselves heals, exhaust, and just so much extra effective HP to work through as the side of Henry Clay Blue. That's a bit of a stinker. You think you're gonna get at least one shutdown from one of these high kill mid and junglers. Doesn't get either of them.
Yeah, it looked like Kilakari was the one caught, but much like Rorschach, they were stuck in there with him, not the other way around. I'm just going to mention all the cosplayers I've ever done, I think, during this broadcast. Give me an Uda in the next game, please, guys. Meanwhile, this dash onto Anime Eagle, this looked like it was going to be the shutdown coming in onto the Akshan, who maybe slightly misstepped, but a little turn around, a little arrival from the support lane, support duo down from bot lane. Yeah, and it was all done so. Meanwhile, Kilakari taking quite a significant amount of damage, gets tagged by the final chapter. In goes Jungkook, but they've not got a lot of support here. They've only got the Yuumi on top of them, and now Yuumi's left alone. The cat left to die in the pits. The Piggles gets close enough that they can escape up the mountain. The dragon and the jungler are going to be the reward coming in for GVAR. Pretty sure HDB aren't going to be able to get too much more here. They've still got the vision down. They're still going to make something happen. It's not happening in terms of stealing away a dragon. Potentially a fight could ensue, but no, that's not what HCB should be taking.
Ah, I'm starting to remember why I really despised Sona Taric when we had this double negation bot lane. Ones which just allow fights to go longer, allow these carries to escape absurd situations. How is this fair at this point? Because, I mean, you look at the Chemfog, and what Chemfog allows you to do as a winning team allows you to be even stronger on the offensive front, allows you to choke out vision, allows you to go towards these objectives. And actually, at this point, you know, on blue side, you're better at defending Dragon Pit. This is one of the better situations to be in terms of vision. It just doesn't matter. You go for the one play, you think you've got a pick, you finally use the Yuumi ult. It's just not enough. That's a real low blow to try and deal with at that point.
Oh, the aggression coming through Anime E-Girl, forcing the flash out of E-Line. It's just not enough. The final shot comes in, and that might be the final nail in the coffin. We're past a 10,000 gold lead at 20 minutes. I love to try and build up the tension in these games, but short of what would more or less have to be a mammoth throw, GVAR seem to have game one sewn up.
At least there are objective bounties, there are mechanics to get it back into it, but someone needs to overstep, and doing that with the enchanters is so difficult. Maybe GP's finally done that, though.
Maybe, but they have the flash available. They've got the support of their team who had started up the Baron in the near distance, and while the blue buff and the Gromp will briefly safe from Gangplank, they will not be safe from Kilakari and co. Jungkook's still looking to try and make something happen, but it's just not happening in this game for HCB. They've had some plays where you could argue it's been unlucky for them. A mere split second of timing cost Deuce their life early on, getting Anime E-Girl snowballing. However, for the most part, this has been GVAR executing their game plan to perfection.
And that's a really good point to bring up, though, because it's the game plan, right? And it's multiple pieces fitting together. Because as much as I talked about the Kayn being able to go across the map very quickly, able to traverse all that terrain, they also have the move speed buffs of both of these two Ravers on the screen to help with that. They start casting their abilities, everyone goes into hyperspeed mode just as the beat starts to drop.
Oh, it's like kind of watching an Earth game. I got to cast an Earth Finals once, and
right.
How did that go? It hurt me more than I care to admit. I didn't have a voice for about a week after that one. But it's entirely possible here that the same might be true coming out of this game. Not so much for the, well, maybe for the voices, if there's that much celebration, but certainly coming out of Game 1, things looking good for Kilikuari and co. And HCB will have to fight pretty hard if they're going to come back and take this series.
So, again, taking over this area of the Chem Fog, going into that Fog of War, very literally at this point. And now we really have the ships in the night very close to the edge. Jinzhao is caught out, but it's not going to be aggressed on for now.
Okay, this is just a case of having the two teams just sort of stalling things out a little bit. That Baron feels like it's going to be the next point of contention.
Potentially, but the question is, of course, well, actually do Generals Varsity really need to get into the thick of things, like in terms of these objectives? They can bait them, for sure, yes, of course you can, but maybe at that point you're buying yourself into a 5-man Malphite ult. Maybe you are actually okay playing on these side lanes, trying to play around the Chemfog instead, trying to catch people out in rotation, which they've done actually for most of this game. It could be just more of the same and not trying to risk another style of play, which is a bit more uncharted territory.
So I've been trying to do the maths in terms of where Juice is going to be at with their upgrades. I think they're just coming around to getting their second upgrade, certainly not near getting the third, which automatically will then upgrade your ultimate. Pretty tough there. And while my eyes were pointing towards that one, my eyes also drawn to the top half screen where the eagle-eyed amongst you will notice that the nameplate has changed for our right-hand side. That's because we have been reliably informed by our lovely folks at production that it's the, I'm going to get the pronunciation horribly, Lafayette High School Generals, rather than just the Generals Varsity. So apologies to Lafayette for not calling them out by name, and congratulations on your Game 1 dominance as things stand.
Absolutely, and they'll be looking to, of course, seal off this game and go dominantly into a second game. On the other side, Henry Clay Blue, they're looking realistically to try and mental reset off this one, because sometimes you'd have to put it down as, look, it's a hard game, it's a harsh game, go back to the drawing board, come back with a different draft, try something a bit different, and try and reset from that point, because if you go into this kind of game again, well, I mean, we've seen it once, so I don't see why it would change again.
Jungkook looking to try and get their red buff, but it's already gone, and Jungkook's life might be as well. Look at the damage coming out. Umbral Trespass just about going to save Kilikuari from the damage coming out of the Victor ultimate. The massive wombo combo is now raining down onto HCB. They don't manage to return a kill, despite having been so close to managing to pick off Kilikuari and getting that shutdown bonus. Anime Eagle still looking for more.
But it turns out it's not just the Chem Fog you gotta be worried about. It's pretty much every wall in existence too, with Action with so many items. But yeah, you're right in calling out how close it got. We called that out a couple of times, but this is what happens when not just this composition gets ahead, but being ahead in general. It gives you extra stats, gives you extra levels. That's a 2-level difference between these junglers. And while, yes, going on to the GP, yes, he doesn't have ult, I mean, he's still buying a lot of time. Gets
stopped by the exhaust, gets bopped by the ultimate, and will provide the second death of this game. Both of them on locket. LHSG are all like, hey, we had a perfect game on if it weren't for you, GP. They're going to steal away the second Chemtech Dragon as a consolation prize.
Of course, they ended up trading that 1-for-1 just a little bit earlier into the game, but yeah, I mean, chooses to hold discipline on the summoner spell, says, alright, okay, maybe I can flash. Probably not worth it at this point. Buys himself a dragon for that team too. Now you're on Soul Point on the Chemtech Soul as well, which has become such a sticking point of a lot of people's complaints for the preseason changes. Very, very strong Soul. And now we're going to see a play on the bot side, but not going to lead to much for now.
Jungkook going so aggressive. Umbral Trespass goes straight in. Eli already half health. The same is more than true for Jungkook. And with the Nami running down on bot side, the health bars of LHSG are very much so more intact than their opposition. I really do feel for Jungkook because they've had this CS discrepancy pretty much all game long since that early pickup. Let's see what happened around this fight. Look how low Kilikuari gets.
And, well, I mean, it gets very low. Is trying to jump on someone walking into this zone of control, which we've seen this team establish for themselves. But, I mean, good play on really Akshan to buy that extra bit of distance again. Like, I know I talk a lot in terms of distance in this, but yeah, for someone like the Kane who's trying to flit in and out of that fight, having someone else holding the door for them to run through was really important in that fight. This mid-jungle TV2 working very coordinated fashion in this game so far.
Can you talk to me just... we'll have to pause
no,
a moment.
No, I can't.
Jungkook
I can tell
has
you
already
the eulogy
away,
for
dashed
Jinzhao.
away, that we've seen the ultimate come in. Maybe Kilikuari having overstepped a little bit. Deuce coming in with the damage as well, but as the supports arrive, LHSG yet again getting themselves full health. Anime Eagle find the pick onto their opposition mid lane, having to step away as the Chaos Storm is put down defensively by Juice. Jungkook is able to escape from this one, and this is my opportunity as we see LHSG starting the Baron to ask me
Malphite's ult down, probably going to be a Baron taken. So carry on, Stan. Got some time.
To be honest, I wanted to pass over to you. I wanted you to talk me through a little bit about what we're seeing of the itemization coming out of Juice, where we've got that Zhonya's and that Crown complete.
Well, I mean, that's just the I hope I can survive build, right? Because Victor's base damage is really strong. Crown we already talked about in the champs. Like, this Baron's gone at this point. You don't have the Malphite to talk about. Probably shouldn't have committed on this one.
Big old pile of damage comes through from the Gangplank barrel, and it might lead to the obliteration of any chance HCB still have in this game. They lose their jungle. They're lucky, if I'm honest, not to lose more.
Well, I mean, as soon as that top lane play, or at least the very inner part of that top lane play happens, and you waste 2 ultimates, you don't have the Malphite ult, you can't really commit to these clumped up fights now. Yeah, you probably are looking at a lost Baron. Maybe you're just thinking, look, it's not going to get better than this. We can try and go into one of these corridors, see what we can find, but this was the likely outcome. They do end up losing that fight fairly heavily to those barrels, which just shred through everyone. I mean, I'm going to go back to that replay and see how this came about. If you don't have that Malphite ult, how do you... I mean, well, yeah, I mean, how do you close down on this GP? Maybe you could run forward as the Shinzo. Well, you don't have Flash. Well, you have to tag your W. You don't be stood in place for that to happen. Cannon Barrage, barrels do such an insane amount of work. It's always going to be a fighting retreat from that point.
Yeah, that was always going to be a big ask. A step too far. LHSG accelerating their gold lead to 13,000, getting the buff onto all 5 members of their team, and now they can start to close in on these final structures.
And what I have been impressed with is just the ability to make sure... Oh, okay, well, that too, being able to blow people up is pretty fun. I was about to talk about their discipline, how they managed to keep everyone in the right phalanx. Maybe they have to survive themselves one Malphite ult of the game. Have to see if that comes out now.
Caitlyn no longer around for damage, no longer around for wave clear. In goes Kawari, goes pretty low, but yet again the healing comes in from the Enchantresses, and yet again it is nothing but destruction, this time for the base of HCB. LHSG taking their first inhibitor of the game, while Locket continues the split push up on top side. The Jungkook is going to go aggressive, but straight away just 1Q rips through the health bars. A parlay! And this GP doesn't want to just talk, they're going to walk the walk as well. Sir Piggles is going to escape with the help of the friendly neighborhood kitty, but it's not going to be enough to keep the base alive. HCB will fall. They are routed in game 1. 28 minutes on the clock. The Nexus will be destroyed. LHSG will go to match point. Kawari yet again taken low, but his is not the one to go through a grey screen. Instead, that final death goes to Deuce. And unlike tennis, it is not Deuce here. It is advantage LHSG.
I would say as clean as you like. It took a bit of scrapping to get to this point. It was good scrapping, though. It was well performed, well executed, and as much as we were talking right from that champ select about, okay, Malphite's a really good go button. Doesn't really matter when you have these insanely strong individual high mobility carries being able to stop the 5v5 ever forming.
Put yourself in the hypothetical shoes here of HCB's coach. What do you do different coming into this into this next game? What are you telling your team?
So, I mean, for me, it was pretty obvious how this top lane was going to be important and how that game plan wasn't really ever realized from the side of Henry Clay Blue. I think it just has to be a bit of like a reset and say, look, okay, whatever we tried in that first game, it wasn't going to work. Whatever they do in the second game, they need to understand what they're doing pre-level 6, because in this game, if you don't achieve that against those champions, it was always going to end up being a difficult scenario, and of course it did end up that way.
Wise words from Nightmare. Let's see if Henry Clay Blue can come back into this series, if they can bounce back up against Lafayette. Lafayette now with 2 match points to try and claim here the KHSAA Championship. We'll be back after this short break for Game 2.
Set me free or give me death, yeah. Living good, I've been blessed, yeah. Shout out all my enemies, all the best. You can set me free or give me death, man, I'm on my way, yeah. You can find out, you on time out. You been dealing with the devil, where you sign at? Yeah, oh Lord, you getting financed. Me, I'm talking ownership, baby, that's where my mind at. Try that, yeah, me, I threw my money down. And you know that it's good, we could skip the run around. And I don't need no yes, man, I'm all the way down. Yo, and I am not for sale, that's in case you couldn't tell, but y'all know better now. You can set me free or give me death, yeah. Living good, I've been blessed, yeah. Shout out all my enemies, all the best. You can set me free or give me death, man, I'm on my way, yeah. I'm on my way. Yeah, man, I'm on my way. Yeah, and I can do this all day, man, I'm on my way. Said I'm on my way. Yeah, I'm on my way. Yeah, I'm on my way. Yeah, and I can do this all day, man, I'm on my way. Said I'm on my way. Real life better than the internet. Keep what you been selling, I ain't into that. We are doing business, this is simple math. I invest, you know I get it back, you believe that? Yeah, they asking what the fame like. Tell them hang tight, let me holler when the pay right. Put that on my damn life, you know I'm the man, right? Show them what the plan like, but y'all look slow, don't understand right. Yeah, so tell me how you feel, baby. Cause I've been working all the way up to a meal, baby. Yeah, man of the year, how I feel lately. You know the deal, baby, you know the drill. Yeah, I'm on my way, yeah. I'm on my way, yeah, man, I'm on my way, yeah, and I can do this all day, man, I'm on my way, said I'm on my way, yeah, I'm on my way, yeah, I'm on my way, yeah, and I can do this all day, man, I'm on my way, said I'm on my way. You can set me free or give me death, yeah. You can set me free or give me death, yeah. Shout out all my enemies, all the best. You can set me free or give me death, man, I'm on my way. Living good, I've been blessed, yeah. Living good, I've been blessed, yeah. Shout out all my enemies, all the best. You can set me free or give me death, man, I'm on my way, yeah. I'm on my way, yeah. Man, I'm on my way, yeah. And I can do this all day, man, I'm on my way. Said I'm on my way, yeah. I'm on my way, yeah. I'm on my way, yeah. And I can do this all day, man, I'm on my way. Said I'm on my way. set me free or give me death, yeah. Living good, I've been blessed, yeah. Shout out all my enemies, all the best. You can set me free or give me death, man, I'm on my way, yeah. Y'all can find out, you on timeout. You been dealing with the devil, where you sign at? Yeah, oh Lord, you getting financed. Me, I'm talking ownership, baby, that's where my mind at. Try that, yeah, me, I threw my money down. And you know that it's good, we can skip the run around. And I don't need no yes, man, I'm all the way down. Yo, and I am not for sale, that's in case you couldn't tell, but y'all know better now. You can set me free or give me death, yeah. Living good, I've been blessed, yeah. Shout out all my enemies, all the best. You can set me free or give me death, man, I'm on my way, yeah. I'm on my way, yeah. Man, I'm on my way, yeah. And I can do this all day, man, I'm on my way. Said I'm on my way, yeah. I'm on my way, yeah. I'm on my way, yeah. And I can do this all day, man, I'm on my way. Said I'm on my way. Real life better than the internet. Keep what you been selling, I ain't into that. We are doing business, this is simple math. I invest, you know I get it back, you believe that? Yeah. They asking what the fame like, tell them hang tight. Let me holler when the pay right. Put that on my damn life, you know I'm the man, right? Show them what the plan like, but y'all look slow, don't understand right, yeah. So tell me how you feel, baby, cause I've been working on the way up to a meal, baby. Yeah, man of the year, how I feel lately. You know the deal, baby, you know the drill, yeah, I'm on my way, yeah. I'm on my way, yeah. Man, I'm on my way, yeah. And I can do this all day, man, I'm on my way. Said I'm on my way, yeah. I'm on my way, yeah. I'm on my way, yeah. And I can do this all day, man, I'm on my way. Said I'm on my way. You can set me free or give me death, yeah. You can set me free or give me death, yeah. Shout out all my enemies, all the best. You can set me free or give me death, man, I'm on my way. Living good, I've been blessed, yeah. Living good, I've been blessed, yeah. Shout out all my enemies, all the best. You can set me free or give me death, man, I'm on my way, yeah. I'm on my way, yeah. Man, I'm on my way, yeah. And I can do this all day, man, I'm on my way. Said I'm on my way, yeah. I'm on my way, yeah. I'm on my way, yeah. And I can do this all day, man, I'm on my way. Said I'm on my way.
We're coming back in for game 2 of the KHSAA Grand Finals. Lafayette took game number 1 in convincing fashion. Let's see if they can have any kind of opposition coming into game number 2. I sure hope so. I am Stanley Greyheart Barker, and I'm, as always, absolutely abundantly delighted to be joined by Alex Nymera Hapgood.
And Stan, I've got a very important question for you. Do you have any preference on boats? Do you like boats? I really like catamarans. I think that they're really balanced. I think that they're great. But just overall, I love ships, and this one is very much left port in good standing here for Lafayette. Game 1 was smooth sailing.
It sure was. Yes, we can absolutely ship that. And we are going to come into pick and ban straight away. We saw in the last game HCB being over on blue side. That's pivoting over to red coming into game number 2. For me, Nymera, my eyes are on 2 things. Number 1, what changes in pick and ban? What gets taken away by HCB? Like we see this Akshan being removed that essentially counterbalances what we saw in game number 1. And thing number 2 is as we get into the game, those early moments can be so decisive. I still put so much value in that early 4-man invade that we saw out of LHSG that burned the Malphite Flash early and set up for such dominance for the Akshans.
For sure. And the thing about that early dominance is it was also supported by the fact that, one team had 3 winning lanes by the end of it. Yes, there were lanes that you could influence and you could kind of turn them on their heads, but the way that the early map played out with actually not getting any advantages towards that GP because of that early level 1, they're not really getting anything done on that bot lane 2 against this really stalwart double enchanter lineup, meant that effectively you had like a whole full court press against you for the majority of that game. We're seeing a lot of the champions that, 2 of the big champions that found Lafayette School their success in this first game have been removed. There is no action, there's no cane, there's no ability to cross those walls and get across the map so easily. And on the other side, we do see that Mordekaiser, of course, picked in when it was first banned by Henry Clay Blue in game 1.
Yeah, it took the words out of my mouth. LHSG playing a game of if it's not broke, don't fix it, keeping exactly the same bans as in game 1 with the change up in bans coming from HCB. It leads to this early Mordekaiser pick. It also leads to the same pickup of the bot lane duo that we saw last time around, of course, as the flex potential for the Seraphine. But even so, LHSD already looking pretty dominant and still having the opportunity, whether it be mid lane, jungler, to put some AD into this composition. You don't look so convinced, Nymera.
I wasn't convinced until the Ziggs was locked in because that adds in an extra, important facet. So the first thing is I'm expecting this to be Maokai support. I'm actually trying to remember if Maokai actually had any changes on this patch. I don't think it was this one. It might have been the one before that. Either way, not so important at this point. But what you're looking for here is effectively the ability to pillar, to twisted advance, to get that lockdown from Maokai, which is so important for, into just like a 0 counterplay one shot from Ziggs, where Ziggs just puts the bomb on them. We've seen this a lot throughout spring and summer actually of the last competitive season. I was a bit worried when it was just the Trundle and the Maokai because it's really low range champions into double enchanter, which is just going to buff up their front line, stand behind the Mordekaiser, and what are you going to do at that point? You don't actually reach the back line that well. Well, actually now, when you have the Ziggs on top of it to follow up onto the back line, it's a little easier.
Lafayette over on blue side, changing things up a little bit, still banning away the Shen we saw banned last time, but opting into a Victor ban, taking that one away, this time from Juice. HCB, they respond by keeping the Garen banned out. I can't quite tell what that ban was for, courtesy of a little visual bug there. We're going to see the first lock-in be a Cho'Gath for HCB.
Okay, so Cho'Gath, what do I think of a Cho'Gath? Cho'Gath definitely helps in killing the front line, because if you're looking to kill the first target and say, right, we're just going to kill him, we're going to go chuck the Mega Inferno bomb, we're going to put the Subjugate on them, finish off with a Feast as well. Front line instantly removed from the fight. That's one way to do it. It's harder to do that against a Mordekaiser because they just ult and get into a 1v1. It's harder to pile those things onto the one target. But you can kind of see what they're going for. Now it's harder to do that again because you're going to be walking into a Encore, into a Tidal Wave, and then also the Fate Sealed. Well, good luck trying to pick one target where if you misstep once, all of you are caught out.
Yeah, HCB opting very much into the ultimate feast or famine champion in the Cho'Gath. Just hearing in my ear from our terrific production that missing ban is an Aurelia, in case you were interested. Over on the other side, the Yone and the Vayne get picked up. Vayne, which we saw banned away in first rotation last time around, alongside the Mordekaiser by HCB. So obviously something that LHSG are going to be absolutely proficient in. Picked alongside the Yone, arguably one of the champions that has benefited the most from the pre-season patches.
Yes, Yone, particularly with the lethal tempo, is so hard to deal with in laning phase. Yes, Yone is definitely a champion which synergizes well with the Conqueror. If you go for your full E into auto attack cancels, get your ult, get your Q, all of this stuff. You stack up Conqueror pretty much immediately. Great for mid and late game. You only can struggle in laning phase, not with lethal tempo, because it's as opposed to Yasuo, it's actually Yone's Q and W, which get cooldown reduction based on attack speed. Lethal tempo, when you keep auto-attacking, when you keep resetting with your Q, which also counts as an auto-attack, you get lethal tempo stacked up so much that everything comes onto low cooldown. Your laning phase trades in a 1v1 are oppressive.
It feels weird to talk about an unstoppable force in a game after a game where there was a Malphite. However, I'm going to ask about an unstoppable force and a movable object, because HCB, to me, it feels like they've not drafted masses of damage. Certainly an absence of AD damage are coming through. Over on LHSG, we've got so much survivability coming out of the double Enchantress lane, which we saw last time around. Obviously, even Seraphine goes into mid. That's still true that you're going to have those double Enchanters. How are they going to kill each other here? Especially HCB, how are they going to kill LHSG?
That assumes I think I think that they're going to kill them. With Yone, with shield bow, with double shields.
I mean, this is a team that only died twice in an entire game last time round, so your assumption's not necessarily far off the mark.
When you have the Vayne and the Yone here, this is genuinely looking like the kind of game which is... Oh wait, we're going to have something weird. I just realized that Lafayette are going to have a weird jungler. This actually might be more jungle. Okay, right, so there's that thing to think about. Hadn't thought about that one first. Second thing is, I look at this Yone and this Vayne. It's probably a kind of game where you can start getting pentakills out. If this is going to be a Vayne top as well, none of these champions lane well into Vayne top. I played a bit myself. I'm sorry, I apologize. I also play Quinn. I'm not apologizing for that one. With lethal tempo and Vayne being so strong when you just keep tumbling forward, the amount of time the stacks stay on for allow you to trade actually very effectively with Vayne. Wait until your next Q comes up, tumble forward again. You can't really fight that in the laning phase. This is all going to be on shutting down lanes early. If this gets through to any semblance of surviving, even more so than the first game, lights are out. That's it. They're just gone.
Which brings me back to the first point that I made during this pick and ban. I just think there's so much urgency for HCB to make things happen. Last time it was LHSG who had that proactive play, burned that early flash, and then made those early kills happen. HCP surely have to do that now. I
would agree. I'd absolutely agree. I think that
it is. By the way, it is Vayne top and more jungle, just so you know.
That would make a lot of sense to me. I was just kind of looking towards that, thinking I don't ever want to see a Vayne or a Yone jungle. So, funnily enough, I did a stream the other day because it was Ari's birthday, and it was great. And I played Ari in every single role, even the ones which you should never touch with the barge.
Did you put Did you put a little cake by the shrine?
I didn't have. If I'd thought about it more, I would have done. But I'm bad. I'm sorry. But you know, I played Ari jungle. I'm like, wow, this is really not meant to work like this. This is just not meant to work at all. And if you place him in like a Vayne or a Yone in the jungle, I feel like you'd be having a similar kind of experience. Mordekaiser really can kind of get away with it. Do I think it's good? Well, we'll have to see. I think that Mordekaiser is good into a lot of the champions this game, because Mordekaiser's great into low-range compositions, great at kind of isolating off some of these champions, and even someone like Set or the Cho'Gath, which can be pretty good into bruiser matchups. I feel like against a Mordekaiser, just being isolated out of the team, ripped out of that team fight, are going to really struggle to do their jobs.
Someone in Twitch chat there saying, you play Vayne top, who hurt you? I can answer that one for you.
Stan.
That would be me on a regular basis. But with that being said, I'm going to take a moment to give you a shout out. I enjoyed watching that stream. Literally, first game, Ari Jungle picked up the W.
I mean, that was all mid-diff. Sometimes jungle diff is mid-diff, as we see in many games of League of Legends. But I was just sat there, I was like, oh, there are 3 kills for my team. This is rather cushy. I could get used to this jungle role. And then I'm going to start playing at solo queue, and it's going to be awful. So I'll let you know how that goes.
Well, we'll get some updates on that one a little bit further down the line. We've sort of discussed quite a lot about how this game could pan out, how LHSG almost certainly have the advantage coming out of this draft. You've talked a little bit about what HCB need to do. They need to do different from the last game. They specifically need to do against these champions. But can you expound on that a little bit further for me? Just let me know exactly what you think HCB need to do in those opening 5 or so minutes.
So opening 5 or so minutes, you want to be blowing flashes, just going hell for leather, just saying, okay, you want to start going into laning phases, taking hard trades as the Vayne against whatever bruiser they're up against. Well, okay, there's going to be a jungler there every single time. Maybe this is the kind of game where you just leave Ziggs to farm versus double enchanters. They can't really punish you that hard, and just have your support. I would imagine it's the Maokai support, unless it's going to be something like the Maokai top lane, Cho'Gath. Cho'Gath's probably okay. There's a lot of ways that they could rearrange this.
Set mid is a potential, I suppose.
Set mid is a potential. Cho'Gath mid is a potential too. I'd imagine it's going to be Trundle jungle, Ziggs in the bot lane. Don't think it's going to move. Maokai support, and then an arrangement of Set or Cho'Gath between the top and mid lanes. But what you want to do is decouple that support and just have an extra person just flying around the map, punishing these over-aggressive lane dominant trades. Already kind of talked about, wow, Vayne's great in a 1v1. Yeah, Yone rather, really good in a 1v1. Well, yes, you know that. That's obviously what they're going to do. Bring someone else, make sure it's a 1v2, punish them for the oversteps, and do that on cooldown. Never give them a foot to stand on.
Is the Maokai really one of those champions that you'd like to achieve that? Yes, they do have 2 forms of CC pre-level 6, but really a lot of what that Maokai support does is just toss saplings into bushes over and over again, getting that layered damage.
It would work better if you had, I don't know, Maokai top and then the Set kind of roaming around in that kind of way too, right? Because that just like runs you with the increased move speed. Yeah, you're probably looking at a Maokai using like 1 flash W and then hoping that turns into a kill, and then kind of sitting on that advantage and hoping that the laners can kind of run away with it. It's not the best support to be doing with. That's just the best of what you've got in this situation, though. I mean, you've got to take it or leave it.
All right, I'm very briefly going to turn my attention towards you out there in Twitch chat. Thank you so much for joining us for what has been a
dangerous
terrific
prospect
final so far. Really been enjoying broadcasting KHSAA finals with PlayVS, and absolutely delighted to be back with Nightmare. Having a little read of some of your chats. There's been good support for both the teams. Give us a little indication of who you're cheering for. I know that LHSG have got a pretty strong fan base out there with Lafayette, and I'm sure there's got to be some out there for HCB too. But I'm going to do something I don't do very often. I saw a name and instantly there's just occasional moments where I went, I wish that was my name. Snackamedes. Oh man. I mean, the Snackamedes principle.
Okay, I can agree with that.
Absolutely on point. Love that.
Is it going to be like a kind of like spout that like spiral spout, which just chunks out like Cheetos or something at the top? Trying to think of what other kind of snacks would come out of it. But cool. I appreciate your works in the engineering world. I look forward to your further inventions. Don't die in Syracuse.
Moving back to the game, we went through there what HCB need to achieve in those opening few minutes, and before we jump onto the Rift in just a moment or two, looking towards LHSG. Boy, that's a set of initials that's surprisingly tricky to say quickly. What do you think they're going to do in response? Are they going to continue to play that hyperactive play that we saw last time, or do they settle down, being aware that actually HCB need to make something happen quickly?
I mean, you're playing with a Mordekaiser jungle, so you're not really going to have that much jungle pressure. I mean, level 3, you're decent at trading. I don't think that's ever going to beat someone like a Trundle. Trundle in jungle is really good at the early game, so maybe that's something which HCB can play around too, just saying, if Mordekaiser tries to fight around anything, Trundle will kill him, and that's a pretty good win to have. You kind of set behind the primary front line, which is, of course, from a less economically solid role, and then you can kind of take them down on a team fight. So actually getting the first pick is a lot easier at that point. But as for what Lafayette can do in the early game, you're probably just looking to use, rather than your jungler as the linchpin of where things happen, use your laners and then move towards them at that point. It's kind of working from the other direction to what HCB wants to be doing. So
I'd like to, if possible, just take us back to a moment from game number 1 that really
it feels so long ago.
It kind of does, because it was the moment where the game, it was almost like the torch paper was lit and the game exploded like a gangplank barrel, and all of a sudden there was just dead bodies all around the Rift, so we didn't get a huge amount of time to talk about it. But
I too love that one song which was really famous.
There was this one moment down on the red side jungle for HCB, and we saw the Kayn and the Xin Zhao, and they passed like ships in the night. The Kayn had just walked back over the wall from the Krugs. The Xin Zhao tagged with the spear, allowing it to have vision so that it could audacious charge over the wall. They skipped each other. I feel pretty confident they will have seen each other during that moment. That was the second where Deuce then starts to step across from mid lane. It leads to Akshan then closing in, and that pincer grip is there, and despite the flash being burned by Deuce on the Victor, still ends up going down. Right. It's the second kill of the game for Akshan, and it was just such fine margins. It feels like the Xin Zhao and the Kayn, had they met each other at Krugs there, very, very different outcome. And it's just those fine moments that really pivoted the game in favour of LHSG. The reason I come back to this is because I feel like if small moments like that could have gone HCB favoured, they would have had so much better a foothold coming into the game. Let's see if they can find that foothold here in Game 2. It is going to be the Cho top lane. It's going to be the Set mid. It is going to be the Maokai support. Both teams stacking themselves up. Seraphine didn't get the memo.
Oh, this is going to be cataclysmic if it leads to anything. So what we could see is Lafayette going through the tri-brush, going around towards the Krug Pit 2. That tends to be the typical blue side level 1 invade. Great way to invade into the tri-brush because you're on vision so late. Question is, are they going to go around this Krug Pit? Are they going to go straight towards the red buff? They are, and they're going to be seen.
Sir Piggles is baiting this one out, knowing they've got the full support of 4 members in this bush, but the bait hasn't quite worked to full effect. That is going to be a big tag coming through from the Glacier, forcing the pass out of Anime Eagle. Flash in response. First blood goes the way of HCB. Just what the doctor ordered coming in for Henry, and now it's going to be Kalikuri tagged by yet another rupture. The stakes are high in this game, and they're being lifted higher and higher by the Cho'Gath with every passing moment. Kalikuri caught out without the flash will die, and it's going to be Jungkook who gets the kill on the opposition jungler. Now Locket, the Vayne, forced to flash, caught out, but not quite going to die to give a 3rd kill to HCB.
I mean, that's one way to start yourself off on a good little platform. We did say, oh, gotta have a really good plan. Make sure that you're upsetting these lanes. Make sure you're getting into the thick of things before the big fights start. It's a bit of an unorthodox way to do it. It might have been handed to them, but it was pounced upon. Cho'Gath with the Glacial gets the knock-up, and the retreat is so hard to get off at this point. This is always going to be a difficult scenario. The bump back from the Satchel 2, insult to injury, kill on the scoreboard. Of course, we see what happens. I mean, Sir Piggles absolutely pinpoint with the ruptures.
Absolutely, time and time again. Look how close Locket comes to death.
Oh, so close. And you do have the flash, you have the ghost. This would have been pretty disastrous if that was a kill onto the Vayne too. I'm trying to see actually who ends up giving the big winners from this. 2 assists towards the Cho'Gath. I don't know what secondary runes he's running it. If it is something like that domination tree, it could have some extra implications from that. But just having the flash away from the Vayne is very important for the laning phase. You've got a summoner advantage. It just helps you, again, stabilize what should have been a massively losing scenario for Henry Clayblue.
I asked you what HCB needed to do in the early game, and it feels like they did it all in that first play. The Seraphine not being present to make that a 5v5, definitely a bit of a difference maker. Metro Mina sticking down to the bot side of the map. The big winners you talked about there, well, in terms of the kills, the first blood went over to Ielzinia. It was the support who got that one with the Ignite, but Jungkook able to get the second. They're the ones who right now have the most gold in this game.
Yeah, so I might have been like completely reeling from the level 1, but did I catch you saying Metro Mina missed the memo? Because that would have been awesome if it was anything to that effect. It is going to be the tier start from the Seraphine, probably thinking, oh, I just want to go into the laning phase. We're not the lane that's meant to be fighting with double enchanters. Well, didn't really give a choice in that one. And the alliteration leads to a bit of heartbreak for the team that's 1-0 up. And, I mean, Yoda's just going to get stopped.
Yeah, Anime Eagle is also flashless, so Jungkook will just take a few hits with the double buffs pounding away. And Anime Eagle, who loses so much of their health, will still find their recall, but delayed by so much.
Ladies and gentlemen, and people of all descriptions, Trundle. This is what Trundle does. In the early game, has one of the strongest kits in the game. In fact, actually, we were casting over in the UK University, seeing Ghost Spin popped.
Rupture is going to connect onto Locket, buying a little bit of time for Sir Piggles. They tried to flash the wall. It does not happen. Kilikwari gets on the board.
Okay, so game's not over yet. Kill goes to Vayne, saves it for them. Could have finished off in that killing blow, but as much as you have a teleport to get back to lane, giving any gold to this Vayne is fairly disastrous. Yes, you had that win at the early levels. You're teleporting back in. At least there's no summoners to punish right now from either Kilikari or Locket. But there's a chance there's a dive coming in here.
Yeah, entirely possible. Kilikari just stealing camps away. We saw them get such a massive CS advantage over Jungkook last time around. They're already starting to do that again, despite having given away that early death. We'll see if they're able to find any significant damage towards this Cho'Gath to try and make more kills go the way of Locket.
So I think if you have flashes, you probably go for that dive. Looks like they peel off from it. We're going to go see what happens here. Cho'Gath taking some heavy trades early, trying to just say, we're going to push this in. I mean, you just walk out. You just walk close to a wall. That's effectively it. You're against a Vayne, you walk close to a wall. That's honestly against most champions with important skill shots or anything like that. You don't really want to be stood next to it anyway, without the wall bang feature, right? Because it locks off half your abilities, half your directions rather, to escape. And in this one, it gives you possibly just the worst situation to be in. You're stunned behind the Vayne. Summoners or not, difficult scenario.
For those of you potentially just joining us, LHSG Lafayette over on blue side are currently 1 game to the good in this best of 3 series against Henry and Clay, who are over on the red side. Game 1 was dominant. Game 2 already, even though we're only 5 minutes in, a lot closer. Both teams applying pressure in different places.
So, while we were waxing lyrical about that, Nami died, so that was fun. So another kill to the Trundle, 2-0-1. Extra kill participation over to the bot lane. So now suddenly, Deaths in every lane, or at least, okay, not in the top lane, of course, but the kill participation from Cho'Gath definitely helps you feel a bit better about that. But suddenly, again, the Trundle is really good at just running into lanes, putting up a pillar, making things really difficult. And suddenly when you have a lot of summoners blown from that level 1, and you don't have everything kind of going towards the plan that Lafayette set up, as opposed to the game 1 where things have been flipped on the head completely in the other way, you're starting to feel, I mean, at least I am, feeling a lot more confident about Henry Clay Blue's chances.
Nymera, there is a skin called Traditional Trundle that was given out to those of us who had Trundle before the rework came out. In this game, we can talk about how Trundle is the more traditional of the two junglers that we are seeing, and it's certainly paying out very, very nicely for HTB, and you have to wonder whether LHSG will regret going for this slightly unorthodox choice, as yet again, the traditional one comes into mid lane. Level 6 is available for both of the mid laners. It's Anime Eagle who gets bopped by a showstopper, will let their soul go unbound, but their fate is sealed as they return to their body into a haymaker, Juice securing their first kill of the game.
That was some pretty sick timing there from Deuce, and sees the ultimate charge up with the Fate Sealed, but it doesn't actually get you out of the set ultimate. So we gotta go right back down towards that bot lane, towards that kill that we missed. Thank you, observers. That was an important one to get. Yes, you did have some good CC coming in. It's hard to uproot this lane, but who's better at that than someone like a Maokai?
It was just
walks in.
Just that last chomp, and at the exact same moment, seeing the little quizzical emote coming in from Eli, who had a bomb just about to land on the head of the fish, and was just like, I wanted that.
That's the record scratch. So you're guessing you wonder how I got here, and then we go through the replay to figure out exactly what happened. So Yone suddenly down a little bit in the dumps too, has died a second time, first time outside of that level 1 kerfuffle. At least they have themselves an extra attack speed, the ability to get that Q cooldown reduced by that, definitely helpful. They're not getting themselves too much CS reduced, but topside, you're absolutely right to pull it out. That's a member behind enemy lines there.
Oh yeah, Mordekaiser for the second time trying to steal away those Krugs. Is successful in doing so. O's for the Death Realm. Jungkook gets caught in it and does not have Subjugate available because Killquari hits 6 before Jungkook. Yet again, because of the CS advantage, it's led now to a trade in mid. Anime Eagle tried to go aggressive onto Juice, but despite that last dash, it's not enough to get away from the Haymaker. Killquari arrives too late to save their mid lane friend.
Okay, you win some, you lose some. Jungle gets the victory for Lafayette. Mid lane gets put into an even worse scenario. The more gold this set gets, the harder it's going to be to make that entrance into the fight. Because particularly with Set, we saw that the Trundle lost the 1v1 versus Mordekaiser. What happens if Set just gets to build up to a really strong first item, first 2? That's going to be quite a difficult scenario for Lafayette to work against because of this disparity in the amount of gold you're expecting these people to have.
I guess now it becomes a game of watching which of these players who has managed to gain such a significant advantage is able to bop the other team harder. We've got the Set who clearly is dominating in mid lane. Mid lane, how can they translate this into the other lane? Over on the other side, Mordekaiser, who now has a 30 CS advantage almost, has also got the kill to their name, is stacking up those big items. They can just walk into any lane pretty much whenever they want. We know exactly how they can affect those lanes, and you might have to start playing a Mordekaiser tax.
Maybe you have to at that point. We're going to see ourselves another big trade in top lane. Lockup lands though, big damage!
Yeah, so Piggle's able to turn this one back, does not have the feast available, crucially.
So I was looking at thinking, that's a cannon minion, that's a cannon wave. Those do a lot of damage early into the game, and this is still early in, it's just crashed over 9 minutes. CS still in favor of the Vayne, as that wave will probably even up in that top lane, but Cho'Gath, as much as they died in that one kind of unnecessary scenario, doing well since then.
A nice Infernal Dragon early on for HCB, having that more traditional jungler certainly helping pay things out, especially when you've got the dominance down on bot side, pushing those waves in with the Ziggs as quickly as you can. Fair play to the Seraphine, keeping up on CS there, but when you count in the fact that Maokai is obviously taking away a few of those minions themselves to help with their shoulder guards, obviously it's evening things out pretty much. Meanwhile, up on top side, one thing that I feel like maybe, I mean, you may well have touched on it, I apologise if you did, we're seeing both Lockett and Killquari opting into a ghost. For Killquari it means no flash on the Mordekaiser, for Lockett it means no teleport on the Vayne.
So when you're playing ranged top laners, you often do want to like exacerbate the lead which you get early on. Ghost for Vayne means more damage because you're getting more auto attacks and you get yourself a lot of extra damage every time you get that W in. This is more important, though. We potentially have 2-on-1 Bruiser matchup. Killakari has the passive already stacked, though, and ultimate.
Killakari absolutely baying for this fight, knowing that Locket is nearby. Anime Ego will be able to come to the wall as well. Juice already being zoned away by Locket, and just like that, Killakari finds yet another kill onto the opposition jungler. Deuce will try and return some damage with the Haymaker, but that was more about the shield than the damage put out.
And this is the big old problem with Mordekaiser. Mordekaiser gets ahead. It's not a 1v1. It's not a 1v2, rather. It just becomes a true 1v1. That's an ult coming into mid. No W.
The fate is sealed. The Haymaker, the Showstopper are used to no effect. Anime Girl finds the shutdown. The redemption story is complete.
That's a classic cooldown counting strategy. Might not be allowed to do that in a casino, but you can definitely do it on the Rift. What abilities do they have? What don't they have? Set can't trade very well, can't have those huge turnaround abilities if they don't have the W. If you don't have the Haymaker, well, good luck trying to get those huge, big kind of like in-your-face trades back. Goes right under the turret, Anime Eagle seizes the moment and pounces.
Very much Carpe Diem. Killakari here. Looked like they were just going to take that scuttle and just get out to safety, but they wanted this fight.
So the big thing here is, I mean, Killakari has already got his passive stacks. I mean, what do you do at that point walking into that? You have a level disadvantage.
Die.
You're
you die
into,
a lot.
You die horribly. That's what you really get from it.
Yeah, 2-level advantage for the jungler, all coming on the back of this massive CS lead that's been built up for the second game in a row. Killakari really showing dominance, even if it's on that slightly less usual pickup for the jungler.
And this was a bit of an overreach from Deuce. I get that you're trying to... So what Deuce is trying to do is stun the Yone on the turret, right? And just say, okay, right, I mean, you can see how close it gets, right? Trying to stun them on the turret, see if they can get anything wrong with that, but doesn't end up in that way. And now suddenly you're looking at a very, very fed Mordekaiser. I mean, you can walk up to the Strundle, not sure you want it.
Yeah, Killakari can take this fight all day long, settling for the Herald that so very easily could have gone over to HCB, and suddenly the gold lead that was there for HCB in the early game has evaporated. It's 1,000 gold lead to LHSG, and they'll get yet more from plating when that Herald is put down.
So that was the ghost blown from Mordekaiser. Maybe thought that there was a way to run down the Trundle. Of course, Trundle still had flash, puts down the pillar, and actually doesn't have to use that either way. So it's a micro win, but at least you're trying to take away something from Killakari, who has been such a force in both of these games. It was the Kayn in the first one, Mordekaiser in the second, and this is only going to get worse when you have this Enchanter's bot lane, which is going to be coming online sooner rather than later. We have a fight towards them as we pan down.
Yeah, Zinnia's trying to force this one. The flash forward from the Trundle, which you saw them save earlier, used to great effect. Massive Mare Inferno bomb rips down, but it's Zinnia's health is the lowest. They flash away with just a fraction of their health remaining. Metramina not so lucky. Nami still having the flash available, just using that exhaust, unable to save the day for the Seraphine, but getting to safety themselves.
Okay, but that's 3 ultimates for one Seraphine who's already got their first item. It's good gold, but it feels like that's too little too late at this point. Nami still makes it out. You're not pushing him with the Ziggs to push down plates. Ziggs isn't going to get that satchel onto tower. You would have wanted a lot more from this bot lane if you were really trying to do it. Locket sees the opportunity. Let's run down a Cho'Gath.
Could be the final hour of Sir Piggles. They are able to land the Rupture, find the Glacial Augment. It's enough to stop Locket, who burned Ultimate and Ghost there. Meanwhile, you see what went down as Jungkook finally burns the Flash to great success.
So this is kind of what I was saying. As soon as the Ziggs was locked in alongside these two champions we see on screen too, I was thinking, okay, yeah, good kill combo onto one of these enchanters. Okay, but you're not unrooting both of them. And again, let's look down towards that mini-map on the bot side. I mean, there's no turret play taken down there. Mordekaiser switches around, picks up the wave, puts the Herald, takes down 3 plates of their own on the opposing turret. As much as it's a kill to the advantage, you input a lot of cooldowns to do it, and you still lose out on the extended gold trade.
I was really interested about what was happening there on bot side, because of the point that you were just starting to make there in terms of the fact that your opportunity for this scaling seems to be running out. So Pickles, he's baiting this fight. He wanted to get condemned to the wall. He wanted Locket to stick around, knowing they've got Jungkook, but Jungkook arrives too late to save the flash of Sir Pickles, potentially even to save Sir Pickles or Jungkook themselves. Teleport comes in. Anime Eagle, who will have both the ultimate and the soul unbound to use to their advantage, going so aggressive, finding the kill onto the Trundle. Teleport in response, not in time, however, to save the jungler. Deuce trying to find the fight, does find Facebreaker, finds a pullback onto Locket, but the damage is now raining down. Anime Eagle gets some rain down to their head. Deuce trying to find the kill, but with yet another crop of the silver balls, it's going to be a kill for Anime Eagle. Make it a double kill as Yone finds the Cho'Gath as well.
I always thought it was taking 2 to tango, not 4 people. Actually, we'll call that 5. That was such insane kiting. As soon as that stun hit from Set onto Vayne, I thought that fight was dead to rights. Credit to Lockett, gets that condemn at the perfect timing, takes the stun, but pushes the set out so it couldn't be any follow-up damage. Didn't have the ult either, didn't have a showstopper, and that's just an insane 2vx performance from the Lafayette topside.
The early game maybe didn't go quite as well as Lafayette would have hoped based on how well things went for them in game number 1, but mid-game has been a point of extreme dominance from Mordekaiser and friends. LHSG now find themselves a 2,500 gold lead. They even pick themselves up a dragon.
Okay, so I mean, we just get to see the dancing shoes in this, and as much as I could talk about what's on screen, we already kind of shouted a lot about it. Imagine how much worse this could have gone if the level 1 didn't happen. Imagine how much worse this could have gone if Jordan didn't have the early game which they ended up having. This is what you buy into when you play against such proficient duelists. There's no Yone ult here. There's actually no Vayne ult either. You're working against 2 enemies who don't even have their full repertoire of fighting abilities. Yes, you come in with a set. Look at that condemn, though. That's the one thing I pull out of this fight, play it again and say, yeah, actually, that's pretty sick timing. Means that the 2 lower range carries can't do anything against the duelists, and they clean up house.
They do that indeed. And yet another big win is there for Lafayette, who are laughing all the way to this 2k gold lead. They are now so close to being able to put their hands on the, well, for us, metaphorical trophy, but for them, potentially very real trophy you can get for picking up the KHSAA victory. They are looking good value for that gold lead as well.
So we just panned over towards that bot lane again. And again, we haven't had to talk much about this double enchanter bot lane, because actually, it's not like HTB has been able to do that much against them. Heavy trades coming in from the set. This is what you do with the set. You just want to continually all in. It goes a bit worse when you have to start trading after the Haymaker's gone.
I guess we'll find out if Sir Pickles is able to make anything happen here. Anime Eagle has just used the Soul Unbound, won't be able to avoid too much of this damage if Sir Pickles is able to get in range, but no, Anime Eagle doesn't step forward. You were just saying how we haven't spoken too much about this this enchanted bot lane. Well, that's kind of a great thing for LHSG, right?
Yeah, exactly.
The fact that we've not spoken about them just means they're scaling to infinity, and they've only given up a kill apiece, and one of those kills, they almost got a kill in a 2v3 scenario.
I mean, so I feel like we just had to talk about them once. Basically, that was a pre-game 1 where we said, yeah, you don't really, if you don't do anything against this lane, they're going to make your life really difficult because you can never really get rid of them permanently shoving, giving you bad resets and all that other stuff. That's been the same for 2 games now. The fighting's happening on the top side and they do land CC onto Vayne. Yeah,
the Rupture connects. The root is good, but with the Subjugate already used, I'm not too sure if Killiquari is able to survive despite all of those extra stats. It's Jungkook able to survive. Killiquari, of course, survives. Of course, picks up another kill. And now Sir Pickles is about to not have a turret to help them out. The turret will stick around. Sir Pickles might not. Mordekaiser bopping down with that mighty mace, looking for a second kill in quick succession, succeeds in their venture, and that was a mighty big win in top lane for the 2 players for LHSG.
I have been really impressed with Killiquari. This is not a traditional jungle like you've been saying. We talked and sang a lot of praises about the Kayn in game 1. That was a lot more flashy in a lot of ways because the huge amount of kills. But the discipline, I've used that word a couple of times, but particularly in this scenario, to not pull the ultimate on Mordekaiser, which is actually the Hex Gates, which allowed this play to happen. Completely missed that at the time, was too busy talking about someone else. But look how Killiquari approached this. Pops the Ghost, immediately starts going on to them, realizing, actually, I don't need the 1v1. I just need the Vayne to start putting out damage. I'm the person that can start, like, locking down the target afterwards if it comes down to it. But what he does is just expertly allows Lockett to do the damage which they need to. Doesn't have to resort to 1v1 and only does that at the end to really just finish up the kill.
Unfortunately, yet again, it's getting to a place where Sir Pickles and the rest of their team just can't stop this Mordekaiser. And with that being the case, if you can't touch them, how are you potentially meant to do damage to the Vayne Yone who are going to be behind that tankier AP battering ram that's holding a mace? Meanwhile, Deuce takes a lot of damage. There is the opportunity for Maoka to try and get in range of Anime Eagle. But yet again, Yone just steps out and goes, nope, don't fancy giving up any kills.
Does end up missing the Fate Seal. Maybe that would have added to a bit more of a kill trade. This is certainly looking difficult, though.
Ooh, good damage put down. Juice is just about surviving there. Still got Iozinia in the wings, waiting to try and secure a kill.
Yeah, so they have double flashes available. They have ultimates available. There's an Ignite too to stop some of that pesky healing from all of that in the game nowadays.
I think that sapling might have given the game away.
I don't know at that point. Maybe they just choose to call it off and go, all right, okay, just here's an annoyance sapling, I guess. But one of the things, again, that we talked about very early into this game, saying, actually, what happens if you start bringing the Maokai to the plays earlier into the game? Obviously, that's not been a factor. And we didn't see the Trundle doing too much on the bot side. There was that one kill, but it didn't really lead to anything back-breaking. It didn't lead to the dam breaking. None of the plates went down. Ziggs has been farming, but not really getting much outside of that. Maokai finally finds themselves on another area of the map. Might be trying to make a play yet again towards bot lane, though.
Full summoners available for this bot lane duo, however, and with the speed ups there to be had, the Nami and the Seraphine instantly escaping to the distance. Perhaps it buys a bit of breathing room for HCB to find their second dragon of the game. It's the first Hex Tech one that we are seeing. And Eagle does have that recall interrupted, but that might not be an interrupt.
I think this is going to be disastrous.
I'm not sure it's an interrupt you want to be finding. Soul Unbound in goes Anime E-Girl, and there's the damage raining down. Good damage does come out of the Mega Inferno bomb, but the health bars that are dropping the fastest belong to HCB. They've already lost 2 in their jungler and their ADC. Now Medramina and the rest of the team are going to clean house. They take 2 kills, they take themselves a dragon, and they even manage to keep Anime E-Girl alive as well. They pick up Malco on the way out, and now all of a sudden Sir Piggles might be left in an awkward spot. Gonna be able to take a blast cone out to safety if they want, but they're losing out so much on the rest of the map.
I would say fish in a barrel, but that would feel a bit mean to Nami, who is the one shooting everyone inside of that barrel. How do you expect that to work out with all of this AOECC? You get that with the Ziggs, sure, maybe you can hold the front line up and try and get those bombs flying through. It didn't happen that way. Mordekaiser gets to walk in and ult them. The terrain works against HCB. They lose themselves a dragon. They lose themselves so much of that fight. And this is going to be a huge herald push in the bot lane.
Yeah, the turrets are falling faster than we can talk about them down on bot side. Herald
and we can talk quick.
Again. Well, I certainly can. Meanwhile, Zinya's trying to find something on to lock it. Junko, however, is going to be chunked down themselves. Killer Kawari just escaping into the distance. I did raise the question in Champ Select of whether HCB would have the damage output just coming out of this Ziggs carry and the tankier members to try and take LHSG. No, they don't. There is going to be a smite coming through. Blue buff stolen away by Jungkook, but small consolation when you see your base in tatters.
So, you did say that Kilokari is getting chunked out. He's ended up on higher HP than he started with. This Mordekaiser is so ready to go the long fight, just ready to sit there, get another heal. If it gets dicey at any point, pop the ult on someone. Stop being targeted by 3-4 people. We're gonna go straight back into this fight, see how they last use that ultimate. I mean, you don't have the vision control to keep the Ziggs safe at this point. Yes, the ult comes through. While he's already in the ultimate, it's not going to be that multi-man Mega Inferno bomb because it's only the one person left down. Deuce is doing a good job of stopping the Yone from getting into the fight. But again, it's just the one-person CC. To win a fight, to actively win it, you probably need a multi-man facebreaker with the Showstopper slamming into everyone on the other team. And obviously that wasn't the case here.
I don't know what you think about this, but for me, at this point, Juice is arguably the most fed member of their team.
Yeah.
And when they're just essentially playing the part of zoning off one player of the opposition, and then the other carries who themselves are in a pretty great position and just ripping through the rest of the health bars, I'm not sure that's the set being used to greatest effect.
No, and it's a difficulty, right? Because actually, trying to play around dragons, that's not a bad combat mechanism, right? You have objective bounties, you start killing it, maybe you get some more gold in, maybe you can start disengaging from the play without losing too much of import. You are going to see potentially a pickup here, but there's flashes and ultimates available again.
But Pillar will put Nami in a slightly awkward position, still has the flash available, does not get caught by the rupture. Potentially the fight will be turned on its head, however, as LHSG throw down those ults, bring in the teleports. Anime Eagle gets an absolutely massive soul unbound, takes down Eli quicker than you can say. Eli is dead. Eli is very, very dead, and so is the rest of the HCB team. The 8th seeds getting absolutely routed by the 2nd seeds, who have one hand on the trophy. Triple kill comes in for Mordekaiser. Killer Kawari claims the ace, will claim the Baron, and may well have claimed the series.
Oh, it's so difficult to close down anyone on this team. They try and go towards the enchanters. Okay, we've seen that work a couple of times in the bot lane. Not to be this time. Too much move speed, too much ability to heal, shield, disengage, and re-engage with the Encore in this case. I gotta give credit to trying, but it's too little, it's too late. It's probably gonna be this whole series going up to Lafayette.
Yeah, and things looking great for them yet again, getting themselves 5 buffs on the back of a clean ace against HCB. HCB, who came in very much as the underdogs, did so brilliantly to get to this grand final, coming into the tournament as 8th seeds. They beat their first seeds of this of their bracket on the way to the grand final. but right now it is full credit to Lafayette, who turned this fight around beautifully.
I mean, are they from Kentucky or are they from Rome? Because they came, they saw, they absolutely wiped the floor with this team fight. Look at the Yone ultimate. That's the one you kind of frame and put yourself into your Hall of Fame at that point. And Deuce, who is, again, as you're saying, one of the most important people in this game to watch right now. It's one of the few people in HCB that can stand a chance of turning things around. Ult's like 2/3 of the way through the fight. Does get a decent ult. Does get a decent phase breaker. Not nearly enough. Too little again. And now we actually might just see the 1v1 of jungler against solo laner.
Yeah, Killiquari going aggressive. Piggles trying to find their way out. Will be successful this time. Has Jungkook for support should they need it. But Killiquari is just going to be able to free push. And now, what are we going to see? Is it going to be the 3-1-1?
So I think Mordekaiser probably is going to be sat on his own. Has enough gold to do so. Doesn't pop the ult just yet.
Not just yet. However, the fight now going on in the Death Realm against
Jungkook
is easily won by the Mordekaiser. The next contender will be Spiggles, who finds the Glacial Orkman, finds the knockup, and maybe finds their way out to safety, but not before seeing the death of their jungler. Juice, meanwhile, is in the fight against Eagle, and a fight that had gone so heavily in favor of Set early on is now being won time and time again by the Yone, who's 6-3-3. We talked early on about how Lethal Tempo has just, I'm not going to say broken Yone, but put it in such a fantastically strong place. It's got the kills, now it's got dominance. The same is true for Locket. They wipe the floor with Iozinia. Eli has to flash to keep themselves alive. The inhibitor will not be so lucky. Attention can now be paid to the Nexus turrets as LHSG are looking to close out a famous victory.
They just take turns in showing off, getting their montage plays ready to put into this one massive Game 2 performance. Locket keeps firing, keeps free firing, keeps DPSing.
Jungkook is able to survive. Eli not so fortunate. The Nexus turret already down below half health surely will be the next thing that we see fall, and that won't be coming back. It's going to be one Nexus turret standing between LHSG and the KHSAA. Grand final victory. A stun connects onto Juice, and the last bastion hope for HSTB is taken down below half health. The Nexus is left in tatters. LHSG are your champions.
The walls come tumbling down, absolutely bulldozed apart by this finals performance. And it's one of those great series where you get to see an ensemble performance. You can point out individual names, and of course I'm probably going to go point out Killiquari, because they had two monstrous games on two very different champions. But this is the kind of game which doesn't really work with everyone without everyone performing their role. Game 1, we saw that Gangplank coming out of Locket, kind of being the very important member to make sure that they could absorb the early jungler pressure, turn a matchup around, and make sure that they weren't overstepping. But that couldn't happen without the bot lane doing exactly the same thing. Even though they were on boring enchanter duty, we saw exactly how much time they bought themselves. And if that wasn't enough, we had an absolute montage set of plays coming out from the mid lane at Anime Eagle to ensemble performance. 5 stellar players here on the Rift from their team.
Anime Eagle and Locket, for me, played the Ralph Wiggum part in this particular one, and that's not meant in any insulting way whatsoever. It was merely the fact there's just this fantastic Ralph moment where he just goes, I'm a distraction. And that's basically what Anime Eagle and Locket did for all of the early game. There was no attention paid to the bot lane. It led to these dueling supports being able to just come into the late game and keep everybody healthy, by which point Locket and Anime Eagle had hit such a point of power, and not to mention the dominance of Killiquari.
Yeah. And I would love to, because I have heard in the background that we potentially can get some replays. If we could get that 2v3 outplay on the top side from the solo laners in Game 2, that'd be great to see again, just to see, you know, sometimes you buy yourself into a composition which just says, you cannot allow these champions a chance to outplay. If I'm in solo queue against a Fiora, I don't approach them most of the time, because I realize the only way that they get what they want is they get that 1v1. They get that 1v2. Whatever you want to give them, just avoid it. And in that kind of moment, you saw HCB walking up there and say, we can finally shut this down. 0 counterplay available to it. And they still got outplayed. It didn't quite execute. It was so difficult for them.
You know what? It's that time of year where, you know, seasonal miracles happen, and your wish is not granted, which means my wish of seeing your wish denied is coming true. Instead, we're going to see the wonderful fight at Baron that led to the game-ending moment.
Oh, whatever. Yone still gets to show off. Everyone still gets to show off. Because again, like, as soon as we saw this fight, like, pretty sure it's really hard to shut down these enchanters with all the move speed, and Metramina, for not the first time in the series, this would have been like the 5th or 6th flash encore that we saw, hitting multiple people. Yes, the Ziggs gets out, but not for long enough, and doesn't escape the Yone coming in.
And
It's a
over
split
there-
fight. You think that the 5v5 is dangerous, but actually with the amount of gold and the amount of ability to skip around these fights, I mean, Lafayette just could not be outplayed here.
Yone's ultimate there certainly takes the attention, but over on the top right of the screen there, we saw Killer Quarry just casually dueling against 2, picks up 1 kill, and then also picks up another 2 to round out that with a triple kill, round things out in style. I think if I've guessed this one correctly, it leads quite nicely to the question of who's your MVP for this series.
It's the big old Marauder in the jungle. It's the Mordekaiser. It's the Kane. It's Killer Quarry. Fantastic series. If you're watching this back, you very much impressed me. Would love to see you end up at higher levels of play.
Well, very much so. Congratulations to them, and commiserations going over to HBC, HCB even, who very much played their part in what was a very much enjoyable series to watch. What's been a great tournament that these 16 teams here in Kentucky have put together. However, they fell just short in the grand finals. Full congratulations to Lafayette. That's a team that have done so well, and I hear also that a happy birthday is due to their team coach, who just got the ultimate birthday present there.
Oh, I wish I had a soundboard set up for that. I could have some little cheering in the background, but we'll give you a quick round of applause. Yay! Yeah, congrats on that. And of course, it's great to not just celebrate the victories to you, but the people within our community and the players and the team. So a very happy birthday. I hope it's been a good one, and would love to see you find more success in the future.
Yeah, really, really well done. Thank you very much to the 2 teams who participated and put on such a great show, and to our fantastic production team as well. So much fun to get to put these ones on, and with you, of course, Alex and I, Mara Hapgood.
Pleasure's mine.
All the most seasonal greetings, and I also wish the same out to all of you there in Twitch chat. Thank you for sticking with us. I hope that you all have a Merry Christmas or whatever you might be celebrating this time of year. Especially to all of you stateside over in Kentucky who have been able to watch this great grand final. Hope you have an absolutely wonderful time. But for now, it is my time to sign things out. Thank you so much for joining us. Thank you to everybody involved. Well done to the teams, especially to Lafayette. I've been Stanley Greyheart Barker. He's been Alex Nymera Hapgood. Goodbye.